People who've never relied on a tarp for their shelter from rain or other weather may be a bit nervous about that gap between the bottom edge of the tarp and the ground. They may wonder, well, won't I get wet if it's raining, and especially if there's a wind blowing rain underneath the tarp? That uncertainty can make people want to buy the biggest tarp that they can get to get maximum coverage, get the bottom of that tarp as close to the ground as possible. That comes with a trade-off of weight and size in your pack. And if you're only going to buy one tarp, you'll want the one tarp that can give you the coverage you need in any condition, especially if you're going to be winter camping. When I first started hammock camping, I used a huge tarp. It was 13 feet long by 10 feet wide, a straight rectangular tarp made from 70D sil nylon. It was a really heavy tarp, did not pack down very small. That was okay because mostly I was canoe camping. Then a friend of mine wanted to go on a long multi-day, multi-mile hike, so I had to think about how small can I go. So I did some mental modeling and put pen to paper and came up with some rough ideas. So let's say the ridgeline of the tarp is pitched down as tightly as you can get it on the suspension of the hammock. For me, that would put it about 1.5 meters above the ground if I were trying to pitch down in storm mode. The width of one side of the mini-fly is about 115, 116 centimeters. The bottom edge of the tarp would be about 0.6 meters above the ground. The bottom of my hammock hung out from below the bottom edge of the tarp. That would put the bottom of the hammock 0.4 meters or about 1 foot 3 inches above the ground. With the tarp pitched out in porch mode parallel to the ground, that would mean a raindrop falling with no wind would hit 1.15 meters away from the center line of the tarp and the hammock. What happens if you add a light wind though? So we'll say about 10 miles per hour or 4.5 meters per second. A large raindrop has a terminal velocity of 10 meters per second, according to NASA. In the time it takes for the rain to fall the 0.6 meters from the bottom edge of the tarp to the ground, it will have moved 0.3 meters horizontally underneath the tarp. And that's assuming the tarp is in its worst possible pitch, which is directly perpendicular to the wind. It should not hit the hammock. So what happens if you pitch up about halfway between full porch mode and down tight? That gives you 0.76 meters from the edge of the tarp to the ground. In the time it takes that raindrop to fall to 0.76 meters from the edge of the tarp to the ground, it will have moved 0.34 meters horizontally. And admittedly, this is not much higher than this. However, you get 0.56 from where the raindrop hit the ground to the center line of the tarp. So it actually gives you a little bit better coverage, just a bit. In full porch mode, can you still stay dry with that 10 mile per hour wind? Well, the edge of the tarp is farther from the center line of the hammock. You now have 1.15 meters from the edge of the tarp to the center line of the hammock. But that rain is going to move just about 0.7 meters, and that leaves you only 0.37 meters from where the rain hits the ground to the center line of the hammock and the tarp. So this sounds good in theory. Maybe I can stay dry up in full porch mode even in a light wind, and maybe that's true. But keep in mind, the terminal velocity of a raindrop here that we're using is 10 meters per second, which is what NASA says is the terminal velocity for a large raindrop. Smaller raindrops have a lower terminal velocity, and they're going to move farther in that horizontal wind, and there's usually mist mixed in with the rain, and that is just going to get caught in any wind turbulence, and you'll probably get damp at least. What happens if we double the wind speed? So we kick it up to 9 meters per second, which is about 20 miles per hour. Will the rain directly hit the hammock? Well, again, pitched down in full storm mode, pretty low, the rain comes in and it will blow underneath the hammock, but it probably won't hit the hammock. So it's going to come 0.54 meters underneath the edge of the tarp. What if we move it up into that semi-porch mode position? You're probably still okay, although you have to keep in mind you have that mist and small raindrop factor, and that rain is really blowing in underneath the hammock at this point. So if you fell asleep with the tarp in full porch mode, how are you going to fare? Well, it's probably going to just blow in and hit the hammock directly head on, not even mist. So what happens if we add another 10 miles per hour to the wind? It will blow under the hammock if you're pitched down tightly in storm mode. Now you're also getting rain splash underneath the hammock, and that could be a concern, but that's a topic for another video. Now the tarp pitched about halfway up, what's going to happen? Keep in mind that this illustration is not to scale, but you're getting really close to that rain hitting the hammock directly. There's really no way to say exactly what's going to be happening in the real world. Every pitch is different, every hammock's different. All models are wrong. But some models are useful. I think there's no question here, in full porch mode and a 30-mile-an-hour wind, you're going to get wet. Another thing to keep in mind, it's a good idea, even when the tarp pitched pretty low, to have one corner pitched lower than the other. That way you'll avoid a puddle of rain accumulating in the tarp and making that tarp sag.
If you want to see how this theory worked out in reality, check it out here.